All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the second part of orientation today. Um, so right now I'm just gonna go over the agenda for a little bit and then we'll continue waiting for some more students to show up. But in the meantime, in about 5 minutes or so, we're gonna start with a presentation from Professor Leah Hibble. She's the HDE Master Advisor, so she's the one who's in charge of making any changes to the major and approving all the classes that you take. Um, and then after that, we're going to have a presentation from Professor Joe Anastronsky. He is the professor that teaches the HDE 100 series or the lifespan series. He's the one teaching it in fall, and he teaches it all year, different classes, A, B, and C. So you're more likely than not going to have him as a professor at one point as you're in your career at UC Davis. And then we're going to have a presentation from Professor Amanda Geyer. She teaches HDE 130, which is developmental psychopathology, and her research also focuses on adolescence. And then lastly, we're going to hear from Professor Beth Ober from the faculty. Professor Ober's research focuses on adulthood and aging. She also teaches HDE 100C, which is adulthood and aging. And she also teaches HDE 163, which is a neuropsych class in older adults. After that, we're going to have a little 15-minute Q&A session for the faculty. So similar to this morning, please just put your questions in the chat, and then Professor Leah Hibble will keep track of those and make sure they're all answered at the very end. And then at 3, we're going to have a presentation from the HDE Club, which you heard a little bit about earlier this morning. And then we're going to have a presentation from Health Professions Advising as well. And then after that, we're going to have another Q&A session for those 2 presentations. And then we're also just going to have a general Q&A if you have any questions for anyone, for the advising staff, just let us know. We're going to have a little Q&A then, so you can ask us questions and everything. So we're just going to wait a couple more minutes. So in the meantime, just hang out and yeah. All right, well, we have about 50 or so students here. So Professor Hibble, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and start your presentation.
Excellent, thank you so much, Hunter. And is it okay for me to turn on my video now?
Yes, go ahead.
Awesome, thank you. Hi guys, my name is Professor Leah Hibble. As Hunter said, I am the Master Advisor for the Human Development major, as well as the Human Development minor. I'm so super excited that you guys picked this major. The expertise that you will gain during your time here will be hugely valuable in tackling the world's most pressing problems. Human development is an interdisciplinary major, and that means it will help you understand the implications of poverty or racial trauma on development, how social isolation affects the elderly, and so many other important issues that are going on in the world today. This perspective can be applied to health, education, therapy, human resources, social work, marketing, and so many more fields. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my role as Master Advisor, and then I'm going to give you 4 tips that hopefully will help you be as successful as you can possibly be in this major. So, as I mentioned, I am the Master Advisor. So what exactly is that? Hunter said it a little bit, which is that I am helpful in doing major modifications. So what that means is that if you want to take a class that isn't on our approved list for electives, then I'm the one that you need to get in touch with. To submit that class, there's a form that you can fill out, send me the syllabus and a brief description about why you think that class is helpful in understanding human development. And another sort of piece of my role as Master Advisor sort of complements the role of the academic advisors. So like the academic advisors are fantastic if you want to talk about like what classes you should take each quarter and across the years that you're in the program. But if you have questions that are more specific to research or your career goals, then you can get in touch with me, set up an appointment, and then we can chat. Your professors are also more than happy to chat about those things too, but as you're just getting in and you're maybe not connected to your professors, then you're welcome to reach out to me to talk about different pathways and career goals. And then lastly, the thing that I do as Master Advisor, which Hunter also mentioned, is that I'm part of the larger piece of the major in terms of working with the faculty to create the major. And right now, we actually have a couple exciting opportunities that we have been working on. And I'm the person that kind of stands in between kind of working with the faculty and then working with you guys, with the students, on understanding what those different human development opportunities are. So for example, this quarter, we have 2 brand new classes that we're going to be offering. And we actually have brand new classes that we're offering every single quarter this year. So many of you are probably getting started in the 100 series as kind of your first classes that you'll take. But there's also some other classes that you should have on your radar. And I'll be kind of the person that will release those announcements to tell you guys about what new classes there are and how they can fit into your major requirements. I can also tell you one other piece of kind of hot off the presses information that none of the other human development students actually know yet, which we will be announcing very soon, which is that we've made the executive decision to have all winter classes online. So just these are kind of the announcements and messages that you will be getting from me. And if you have questions about that, we'll be updating the website. And then of course you can get in touch with me as well. So with my last couple of minutes, I just wanted to give you some 4 tips to leverage everything that we have to offer. Number 1 tip that will apply to every single class is go to office hours. I cannot stress this enough. And I know you heard about this during your Aggie Success orientation, but I just want to reiterate it. Even if you don't think you have questions, there's still gaps in your knowledge that the professors can help fill in. Talk to them about your career goals. Ask them about being a professor, even if you don't want to be a professor. Ask them if they've ever even held other jobs. Ask them about how their class relates to other classes you've taken. Ask them about how their class relates to the pandemic or racial justice or poverty or positive development. The biggest thing is that office hours allows you a chance to make a personal connection with your professor. And it's in this relationship that your knowledge can grow. Number 2, get involved in research. even if you aren't interested in research as a career. Most careers actually depend on you being a smart consumer of science. Nowadays, you can search on Google for just about anything, and it will give you an answer. So the hard thing nowadays is not getting information, it's deciphering. It's having a critical eye to understand that information, to interpret, to critique, and apply that knowledge. In research, your classes will give you these skills for sure as well. And research will also help you hone in on these skills. You can start reading through faculty profiles in human development, but also in psychology, sociology, Chicana studies, education, whatever it is that your passion is, go out there and find it. There's people that are doing research in that area and get connected to those folks. You might have to email people a couple times, but don't give up. Number 3, read the human development website to stay connected to the information. Again, the hot off the presses information. There's so much info that's already on that website that can answer so many questions that you might have. It's still important to make regular appointments with your academic advisors and be connected to the academic advisors, but really start your journey with the website because, again, there's just so much information there. Lastly, number 4, read your emails from us. I know everybody gets so many emails nowadays, and it's so hard to kind of filter through all the different information that you're getting. But when you see something from human development, keep an eye out for it. It can have some really important information about maybe some new classes that we're offering, or how we are accommodating and adjusting to this new world that we're living in. So keep an eye out for those updates to schedules, courses, and to the major. Again, I'm Leah Hibble. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm super excited that you're joining us on your journey towards human development.
All right, thank you, Professor Hibble. So now we're going to have Professor Anastronsky give his presentation. So you can turn your video on and unmute yourself, and you're good to go.
Cool. My microphone's been a little echoey, so I apologize to people ahead of time. But I've got a question for the group. So we've got 65 people in this meeting. How many of those people do you think are wearing shoes? Just get you thinking a little bit, engage you, make sure you're paying attention. So nobody has to answer. My name's Joe Anastronsky. One thing you're going to see from me is I'm going to try to redirect your attention a bunch today, because that's something you're going to have to get used to doing on your own when you're in these sessions, when you're watching video for your courses, now that we're remote for at least a couple quarters. So be ready for that. I'm going to try to give you a little bit of insight about 100A especially, but also my broader experiences teaching the 100 series. So when people are like, oh, you study human development, what does that mean? Well, one thing I like to tell people is that we can think of this as becoming a human developmentologist. So we are taking our time to learn about how people develop so we can take a science of human development and apply it to the world in a lot of different ways. And those of you who are on smaller screens, use the speaker view so you can see some of the visuals that I'll share with you, because it'll only show me if you switch to that. You'll get to know Zoom a little bit more. So people are like, oh, why are you going to college? Why are you doing that? You don't have to know that right away. And that's something you're going to hear from me pretty often. But you do need to think about it. Right, so you can delay a little bit in giving people a clear answer. You can say, I'm becoming a human developmentologist, but really, like, use the 100 series as a space to work through figuring out what it is you want to do down the road, whether that's a good fit for you, and we can work with you to refine those goals that you have. And speaking of goals, like what do we do in the 100 series? Up here, you can see some student learning outcomes. So these are our program level outcomes that you'll find on the Human Development website. And then HDE 100A especially, but also in B and C. We'll focus on the top outcome here, and we're giving you a general representation of what happens across the life cycle. So 100A will start out with infancy and early childhood. So we'll talk about some theories, what research is, we'll work through prenatal development. We have all these different pieces, and the 100 series is listed as supporting what we call depth subject matter if you're poking around the website. And I'll try to push you toward some deeper applications of what we're learning. So you're going to write a bunch. And actually, if you look through your participants list, so fun task for looking around Zoom, many of my former students are in this meeting, and they've all had very different experiences with my courses. So like, I don't know, I saw Rowan in there, for example. Maybe I'm going to increase Rowan's workload 1,000,000% by saying this, but Rowan's been in a face-to-face version of 100A that got cut off by a pandemic, a remote version of 100C that was mostly self-paced at a time when we had a pandemic and protests of racial injustice and like all kinds of complications in the spring quarter, and has been in a remote summer session offering of 100B where I tried a bunch of new things and a lot of them didn't really work that well. So Rowan can tell you all about that. And like Darcy's experience was way different in my classes, and Hunter's would have been as well. So, and Kailani actually had a really consistent group across a couple classes, so they can all tell you slightly different things about the experience. So definitely talk to them about it, because they all have had such different experiences in the same courses. So ask them about it. I'll focus on 100A quickly and early childhood. So one thing we're going to think about is like, well, what do we see change in the first years of life, and how do those research findings actually play out in the real world? Whether we think about something like preparing kids for going to school, or we just think about things like how do we help parents be more responsive to their kids, right? So we're going to try the best that we can in a remote experience to push for some of these extensions of research findings. So it's not just that we're reading the book, or it's not just that we're watching some videos, but we're also trying to say, well, how does this stuff actually look out there in the real world? In the before times, that was a lot easier, right? Like try to think about the last time you were in a classroom. And I can remember for me, I think it was like March, it was the second week of March, right? And it just feels like a different world now. So we have to put ourselves in this mindset of like, I'm learning from the space where I am right now. It's different. How do I try to do some of the same things, knowing that I can't do all of the same things I would have done in a face-to-face experience? And we're all going to guide you through that a little bit differently. So here in Zoom University, we're all trying the best we can to guide you, but it's complicated. Like we've all got different ways to try to meet our goals for classes, and you need to try to keep that in mind when you're working with any given class. So the key here is to ask your professors how you can work toward the goals, and to seek help from them when you can, from your TAs as much as possible, and to rely on this peer advising team, which I would definitely rely on. Like this is a good group. So definitely use the resources you have available to you. And that gets to this. So what movie is this kid in? Somebody drop it in the chat. It's been on Netflix's like, you should watch this pretty much all the time for me. Yep, it's absolutely Jerry Maguire. So this kid is in Jerry Maguire, and I picked the image of the kid because I teach 100A this fall and it's about kids, but the kid doesn't actually say this. But one of the most commonly remembered phrases from Jerry Maguire is "help me help you." Jerry Maguire is a sports movie / romance. It's the kind of movie you really should be watching if you have a little bit of time, just to just to take a minute before you have a really hectic fall quarter, but that's not the point here. So help me help you. I want you to remember those words, right? If you're stuck somewhere in a class, go back to this and be like, help me help you. What do I need to do for that to happen? Okay, maybe I need to email my professor. Maybe I need to post a piazza, or there are some other kinds of message board type question and answer websites essentially that professors will use. Maybe you need to drop in to talk to your TAs. Maybe you need to schedule a meeting. But anytime you're stuck this fall, think about this. How do you help your professor help you? Because you know what you need and your professors can't know unless you tell them. So in terms of time, when am I supposed to be done? I'm actually a little bit early here. So I'll give you a little bit of takeaway. So the 100 series it's an interesting experience, right? Because people will take the classes in different orders. You'll have different professors who approach learning in different ways. But one constant there is you can stay on track saying, what am I interested in? How does it apply to my current or future life? And what do I need to do to get the help that I need? And I think if you, like Leah said, if you use these quick tips, you'll get the help you need to do really well across the HDE classes you take. So that'll be my closing message. And some of you are already engaged with 100A for the fall. So it's been good to see some messages from you already, and I'll keep helping you as much as I can.
All right, thank you, Professor. So Professor Amanda Geyer wasn't able to be here today, but she had a video prepared. So Pa is going to share that now and we'll be able to watch it.
Welcome, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here today to share information about the Human Development major at UC Davis. My name is Amanda Geyer, and I'm a professor in the Department of Human Ecology, as well as the Associate Director of the Center for Mind and Brain. I'm also the chair of our graduate program in Human Development, where we offer a master's degree in child development and a PhD in human development. I received my own PhD in developmental psychology and completed several years of postdoctoral training at the National Institute of Mental Health. I have been a professor here at UC Davis for the last 11 years. My research expertise is in adolescence with a focus on mental health and brain development, as well as associated different social and contextual influences. I find adolescence to be such an amazing and interesting time in human development. There are so many changes that are going on, both new ways that adolescents shine and mature, but also new factors that can put them at risk for poor outcomes. In terms of the classes that I've taught, I have taught 100B, Middle Childhood and Adolescent Development, many times. I've also taught the practicum course 141, Field Studies in Childhood, and the elective course 130, Development and Psychopathology, which is one of my absolute favorite classes to teach. I've also created a brand new class called the Developing Adolescent Brain. This gives you a sense of the courses that I've taught, but we have many other great courses here in our program that focus on things like stress and resilience and family processes, as well as many other topics. Finally, I mentioned that I am the Associate Director of the Center for Mind and Brain, which is where I also have my research lab. The center houses the labs of many different faculty from across the campus, including the psychology department, linguistics, biological sciences, and the medical school. So in addition to many faculty conducting their research within their labs at their departments, UC Davis also has many great centers and institutes that provide undergraduates like you with experience in all different kinds of research. So I would like to encourage you, as you explore UC Davis and take different courses, to look at what the faculty are studying and reach out to those whose research interests you, because it can be a terrific way to learn something new, build your skills, and make connections with mentors. Thank you for your attention. I hope this gave you a general idea of just one part of what a major in human development has to offer you. I really encourage you to reach out to faculty, advisors, and peers to learn more about all of the amazing learning opportunities you will have as a human development major. And I wish you all a very successful transition as you begin your education here at UC Davis. We are so glad to have you with us.
All right, awesome. And now we're going to hear from Professor Beth Ober. So whenever you're ready, Professor, you can turn your video on, unmute yourself, and then get started.
Okay, can you all see and hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, good. Hi, everybody. I'm Professor Ober, and I want to welcome you all to Human Development. I know you're going to enjoy this major a lot, and you've gotten a lot of good information already. So wanted to remind everyone, Human Development at UC Davis is in fact a lifespan program. Why do I say that? And that's because development occurs from conception to death. A long period of time there, usually, hopefully. And it turns out that gains as well as losses occur across the lifespan. It's not the case that development is in just childhood or early adulthood and then everything else is losses. Quite the contrary. There are many examples of gains in older adulthood, and I'll just give you a couple. Emotion regulation. It turns out that regulation of emotion keeps improving throughout adulthood, throughout old age. And also world knowledge, wisdom, things related to experience and acquiring new knowledge definitely increase throughout adulthood and into old age. Career settings that involve working with older adults as clients or patients that you might be working with, those kinds of settings include senior centers, community programs for seniors, assisted living facilities, as well as any kind of geriatric medicine or sometimes family medicine setting where older adults are among the clients, patients. Many careers involve working with adults, including older adults, even if the work setting is not specifically focused on serving older adults. What do I mean by that? Well, just as an example, K through 12 teachers, which I know some of you are interested in becoming teachers, they interact with parents and grandparents of children fairly regularly. Also, if you're going into OT or PT, which many of our students are, family medicine, public services, social work, any of those careers are going to involve interacting with clients or patients, depending on the setting, of many ages. And even if your focus might be on the children or adolescents, you're going to be interacting with their parents, grandparents, maybe older siblings. It just sort of depends on what's going on. So that's why I want to emphasize human development is lifespan, and we really have a fantastic opportunity to study lifespan development here. Okay, so there are actually 5 human development faculty. It's so fun to be able to say that, including me, who teach at least one adulthood and aging class. And 3 of us, last names are Ober, that's me, Miller and Huo. We all actually have research programs that are focused on adulthood and aging. And I'll tell you just briefly a little bit about those. So here, actually, I wanted to, actually, can you see this card if I hold it like that? Yeah, here are 3 names, Ober, Miller, Huo, H-U-O. If you want to look us up later when you have a chance, if you're interested in anything having to do with adult development and aging, particularly research. And I actually cover, in my research, cognition, neuropsychology, and brain function. And basically age 18 to as 90 something. My oldest subjects have been like 93 or 94, my oldest research subjects. Dr. Miller studies cognition, social cognition, and health behaviors, again, throughout adulthood and aging. And Meng Huo, Dr. Huo studies social relationships, social support, helping behaviors of older adults, and caregiving. And again, all different ages of adults, focused a little bit more on middle-aged and older adulthood. And the other 2 faculty who teach classes in adulthood and aging are these 2. I want to make sure I have the names handy, so in case you want to look them up. It's kind of weird to do this. Okay, so Jennifer Falbe and Joe Anastronsky, who you just heard from a few minutes ago. Some really good information. Yeah, both of the, but 160 would be the course for Dr. Falbe and 100C for Professor Anastronsky. Okay, and by the way, I wanted to mention that I'm going to be teaching HDE 163, which is adult cognitive neuropsychology in the winter quarter. And then I'm going to be teaching HDE 100C spring quarter. So I'm hoping to meet some of you in one or the other or both of those classes. For those of you who do have a particular interest in adult development and aging, please consider our minor by that name. I'm a co-advisor for the minor along with Dr. Miller. Only 5 total classes are required for that minor. And 100C can be one of those classes. It can be the overlap class between your major and minor. So that's kind of a nice way to get started anyway, if you're interested. And you can find details about the major on the Human Development website. And do feel free to contact me either about the minor, anything about adult development and aging. If you're interested in getting involved in research with adult development and aging, I'd be happy to talk to you about not just my research, but other research that's going on that I know of on campus. A lot of people are involved in aging, even outside our department. So here's my email address, baober@ucdavis.edu. Feel free to email me anytime. And if I don't get back to you within a couple days, email me again. We don't, we all get so much email, but we faculty really never intentionally ignore your emails. We may just have a bit of a backlog and we don't mind. I think I can speak for everyone. And Dr. Hibble mentioned this too. We don't mind you re-emailing us if you need some information or some help. So I think that's it for me. Thanks so much for your attention. And again, welcome to Human Development.
All right, thank you, Professor Ober. Professor Hibble, I'm not sure if you've received any questions like through a private chat, but right now we have some time for a little Q&A session for any of the professors who are here. Oh, and Professor Geyer showed up. Professor Geyer, actually, we played the video that you recorded. I don't know if you'd like to add anything. If you want to, you can add some stuff right now.
It was going when I signed on. So, well, I'll just open up to questions, I guess, but just to round out my video. Hello, everybody. I am a professor in the human development area. And as you heard, my research focuses on adolescent development with a focus on mental health issues and the role that brain development plays, but also other kinds of factors such as relationships with parents, poverty experiences, and so forth. And I'm happy to take any questions about that area, but I also, as I mentioned in my video, I serve as the Associate Director at the Center for Mind and Brain, which is a research institute available on campus. And we have many undergrads who get involved in research opportunities through that particular center. And there are many more centers that our department coordinates with to help undergrads like you who are majoring in human development get more experience in research. And that's one of the really great benefits of being here at UC Davis, is access to really world-class research operations going on that can really give you some important skills for the workplace and for further education later and so forth. So I really want to encourage all of you to consider trying out research experiences, and in addition to the other kinds of things that you take on, such as internships or practicum and things like that.
Awesome. Oh, Professor Hibble, you can go ahead.
No, I was just gonna, if you want, I'm happy to take the reins and to help facilitate a discussion. Okay, great. So just to reiterate, if anybody has questions, we would love to answer your questions. I have the chat open, so you're welcome to type your questions in. I see first question here. What does the path look like for a human development major looking to become a nurse? Is it possible? Is this the right major? I'll chat a little bit, and then I'll pose that question to our faculty panel too to see their perspective. I 100% think that this is an appropriate major for you. And there's a couple of reasons why. Nursing and honestly all of healthcare, you're never just dealing with somebody's biological process or some physiological or pathological issue. You are always dealing with the entire person. And when somebody walks into the clinic, they're not just walking in with one disease. They're walking in with their entire family's worth of experiences, their early trauma, and also their cultural values and their own belief systems. And in order for you to be an effective clinician, you need to take all of that into account. And if you're not able to sort of meet the human where they are, then it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to treat whatever is sort of the core physiological, biological, pathological issue at hand. And honestly, I think the medical field on a whole is moving in that direction, but nursing has really very much embraced that holistic approach. And so a number of our majors are interested in nursing. And I bet Dr. Ober and Dr. Geyer have actually had people working in their labs that are interested in nursing.
And OT, PT, a lot of students. It seems like every year I've had maybe 20% of the students in my lab and another 20% in my classes are going into either OT or PT. And doing very well coming from a human development major, getting into multiple programs that they applied to. So yeah, you're right. I mean, everything you said about nursing, Leah, applies to basically any healthcare field, or social services, or education.
And I would just add in many of the classes that you take through our major, you're going to learn how to read research findings, interpret them, apply them, stay informed about them. So even if you don't pursue a career specifically in research, like many of us are doing, you go out into these fields as an informed worker who can, turn when you need to research findings in order to help you serve whatever population you're working with better.
And in terms of the process, we actually have an incredibly flexible major in terms of not having a ton. I recently, not to badmouth any of the other majors, but was recently involved in a review of nutrition, and oh my goodness, they have so many required courses. Human development is actually much more flexible, and so it's easy for you to kind of piece together that process if you pull up the major requirements form and start to build your major. Joe, I see that there's a question about teaching. Would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I think we're starting to see a list of questions about professions, which is great. Those of you who don't have these questions in mind, you don't have to know what your career will be at this point, but listen to the answers to see if some things catch your interest. Being a teacher is a complicated question because the first space we need to explore is, do you mean become a teacher in California or become a teacher somewhere else? And if you want to work toward becoming a teacher in the UC system, it relies on a master's level credential, and you need to set yourself up to apply to a target master's program to become a teacher here. So what you want to do is you want to think about how the human development major, especially potentially with an education minor, would set you up for that. So that's the type of path. And actually this applies to a lot of the questions, right? Like I can think about this as a longer term trajectory, and there are certain things I will need to do for those next steps, and I can build them into my major. So that's my kind of general take, with a little bit of a focus on how becoming a teacher here, especially being at UC Davis is a little more complicated than it needs to be. If you were in a different state or wanted to teach in a different state, there are much easier ways to go about it. So we'll leave it at that.
Thank you. I would say that maybe 30% of our majors seek a minor in education. So you would not be alone if that's your path. And I see a question here about, we've emphasized get involved in research, but how do you do that? If somebody is interested in research, like what's their first step? Dr. Ober, what's your advice there for how somebody should go about that first step of getting in touch?
Yeah, well, and I think you mentioned this earlier, Leah, too, is go to the website and start with human development faculty since you're a human development major. I mean, and they may recommend that you talk to some other people depending on your specific interests. But look at, we all have listed our research interests, sample publications if you want to look at them, but at least we have a little blurb, even if you don't want to read the publications, on what we're interested in, what phase of development we're looking at, what aspects of development, social, cognitive, biological, et cetera. Most of us look at multiple aspects. And then just email the faculty. There might be 2 or 3 faculty where when you read the information, you go, oh, that sounds interesting. I'd really like to talk to him or her. And then just email either, well, everything has to be by Zoom now, but make an appointment, a Zoom appointment or a phone appointment, whatever works. And that's where you just need to start. And, don't be shy about asking questions, finding out a little bit more. And hopefully one of those faculty will have an opportunity for you, or maybe they can recommend another faculty, maybe someone they're collaborating with that they happen to know has an opening for an undergraduate research assistant, even if they don't right now. So yeah, I know it can be scary to reach out, but that's what you have to do. If you don't let faculty know that you're interested in, working in their lab, then how are you ever going to get that opportunity? But
sometimes
peer advisors could maybe help nudge you too if you're unsure if you're feeling a little scared how to get going with this. But we're not that scary once you start talking to us.
Dr. Geyer, thank you.
Sometimes faculty also make announcements in their courses to encourage you to get involved. Sometimes there are new projects that are coming down the pipeline or ongoing projects, and we need assistance in implementing these projects and running them. And so oftentimes you can learn about them through announcements in classes. You can also contact your TAs and ask them about different research opportunities, if they learn of things, or if they're working on research that's of interest to you as well. So that's another idea. And then I'd also just suggest, of course, I think our HD website is a great first place. And then do some research across UC Davis. There are so many centers and institutes that you might not just sort of readily see. And so just take some time to search just across UC Davis for places like the Center for Mind and Brain. And then you can go there and see faculty that are affiliated with that center and reach out and see what their research is like, reach out to them. We also have the Mind Institute located in Sacramento, and many of our majors get involved, maybe not even in research, but in doing clinical work or assisting with clinical work with children, for example, that are maybe participating in research, but there might be a clinical component too. So there are all sorts of different kinds of research centers and institutes that I'd also suggest doing some looking in to see what's out there.
That's fantastic. Thank you guys both. I think also one little thing is that one thing to keep in mind is just sort of the reality of the faculty-student ratio on campus, which means that there are quite a few students that will be looking for research positions. Don't let that deter you, But what that means is that you might have to be flexible. You know, you might really, you look at somebody's profile and you're like, oh my goodness, this is perfect. This is what I want to be doing. And you reach out and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, we don't have any positions open. That's okay. That's okay. Keep looking, find something else. Why was that one interesting? Look around to see what else might fit. You might not land in like the ultimate perfect place the first time, but I think that what is important to recognize is that no matter where you land, you are going to have good experiences. One of those experiences might be, actually, this is not what I want to do, but that's still a good experience because you've learned something there. You've connected with a professor, you've established relationships, you've met people, you've learned new technical skills, you've learned time management skills, and it will just set you up for a even more successful next step. And so if the first person you reach out to doesn't have something, just keep trying. So I've seen a couple of questions about minors, and I would say that Pa put into the chat, there's a whole bunch of different minors that people often pair with human development, and I think that kind of speaks to the interdisciplinary nature of human development. That a human development perspective helps you understand so many facets of everything, of life, of the world that we're living in, and how you choose that minor. It sort of helps you make the connection of the broader human development experience to maybe a more specific focus of maybe if you're interested in specifically in the Latinx community, then you might minor in Chicano studies. If you're interested in becoming a teacher, then minoring in education. So think about, where your passions lie. And then honestly, anything pairs pretty well with human development. Somebody asked about how and when you can minor. That sort of depends on the minor that you are seeking out and the process for that minor. So for example, in human development, or here, Rachel's answering this too, and I'll read out her response. It's not so much when you minor, because you don't petition to minor until you're registered for your last minor class. So that's a very different process than declaring your major and kind of working your way through the major. The minor is sort of, okay, I've completed the minor, and now I can say, like, I can petition for being in that minor. And so that's usually, as she says, close to graduation. So now kind of focus on your major and getting your electives and how you're sort of planning your next couple of years. Think about what sort of electives you want to be putting into your plan, and then you can kind of look at that and see what makes sense in terms of declaring or petitioning for a minor once you get closer to graduation and completing those requirements. Joe, I bet you've worked with quite a few students that have majored in human development and have another major or another minor. You want to talk a little bit about working with them?
That happens all the time, right? Because I see just, right, like if we just go a calendar year, I've had more than 1,100 students, right? So that's, yeah, I mean, psych and human development, that's really common. That's probably maybe the most common of what I've seen. But I guess what I'd encourage, because I see a lot of questions in the chat that are getting specific, I encourage people to back up and say, well, what are my goals? What are my interests? Maybe find some resources on campus where you can take a career interest inventory, like the strong interest inventory, to see, like whether what you think you want to do is a good fit with who you are, which is a really important thing over the longer term. And human development's a great major for that, because you're learning about what people need, and that applies across all kinds of fields, right? So regardless of major combinations, double majoring, major minor combinations, just to me, it's about taking a minute to figure out what the bigger picture is, and definitely asking for help as you do. So Rachel just did a good job of dropping that in the chat. That's one of the best resources for you. Yeah, I mean, that's mostly my take on it. I'll force you to think about some careers sometimes in your assignments, so it'll get you thinking about that.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I think that's really, really great advice. So I think we probably have time for maybe one or two more questions. I would love to dig in a little bit more if there's anything else people are interested in. You know, it could be specific or more broad questions, or even, you know, if you're taking a class with one of us. Excellent. Thank you so much. So, so this a student says that they will be making a loop chat group chat for human development majors later today or this week. If people are interested, then you can private message them. And if you want to chat a little bit about what is that and what does that mean, that might be helpful for people to decide if this is something that they might want to sign up for.
Yeah, can I bounce in?
Sure.
So what you just saw in the chat is something I want everyone in this group to think about. Like how do you form groups that support each other? And that's something that you really need to think about now, because you're not going to show up and sit next to a few people who sit next to you all the time, and then you'll go outside and talk to each other, and then you'll be there if somebody needs some notes. So start to find a way to build that same type of group, because we don't have the situations that have usually supported that before.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for saying that. I think that is so, so true. So, you know, oftentimes, and you probably saw this in your previous educational experience, you'd walk into class, you'd sit next to somebody and be like, what are we doing today? And then the person might say, well, I think we're reviewing for the exam that's, you know, on Friday. And you go, oh, that's right, exam on Friday. And you get so much information from those small interpersonal interactions that sometimes we even forget how much information we're getting in those small interactions. And so before, they used to be unplanned and just sort of sporadic and random, and now we need to plan for those. You know, I used to say, and I'm going to bounce this back to Joe, I used to say at the beginning of class, turn to the person to your left, get their name, get their email address, turn to the person to the right, get their name, get their email address, because you need to know somebody in this class. So Joe, do you want to talk a little bit about, like, and this might be tips for instructors on how to facilitate some of those very initial connections, or tips for students? I know that you do such an amazing job in your class, but for students that maybe aren't in your class, how do they do that?
Yeah, I think, well, actually, Rowan could probably tell everyone how tough this is remotely in comparison to having had a face-to-face experience of just sitting with the same people. actually, Kailani had a group where they would support each other outside of class because they were working with group chat or group projects together. Yeah, like Rowan said, it's a big change remotely. So look for the spaces where you're in groups already. That's a really good place to start. So a lot of people are going to use Canvas discussion boards to try to simulate some group discussions. And in that functionality, you immediately have a group where you can contact people and say, I need help with this, or what do you think about that? Similarly, like groups of people will be active in the chat in Zoom, and maybe that's a sign that you can rely on them for some help because they're really interested, or just think about these signs that you can find a support group in the situations that you have available to you. I used to do group projects that like facilitated this for people, but it's so challenging to do them remotely that I don't see that happening again in the foreseeable future. But some smaller classes might still do that. So if you end up in a team or working on group projects, create that network from what's already available to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I think we're probably out of time, but I just want to reiterate, we are here for you. This is a very, very different situation. There's going to be some amazing things that we don't even see that are going to come out of this time, but we also know that there are some struggles. This is an intense time. It's an intense time for everybody. And we're here to support you. Make those social networks, get connected to your professors, get connected to your fellow students, find your place. You belong here. It's hard to figure out what here is right now, but we are so happy that you are here. You belong here. You worked so hard to get here, and we can't wait to support you on your path. So thank you so much.
Thank you all. That was really great getting to answer all the questions and everything. I will say that if the little tips that Professor Hibble gave at the beginning were actually really, really helpful. I think the best class that I did in was the one I went to office hours like almost every week. A lot of times I actually didn't have any questions and I just sat there and listened to other people's questions. So definitely go to office hours, email professors, don't be afraid to ask questions. I think that's a big thing. All right, so now we're gonna have a presentation from the HDE Club. So Kailani, whenever you're ready.
Hi everyone, my name's Kailani. I'm the outreach coordinator for the Human Development Club. You may remember me from earlier this morning when I introduced myself as a peer advisor. Also here to introduce themselves is our co-president, Mairead. I believe she's in the chat.
Hi, I'm the co-president of the Human Development Club.
Yeah, so we're just here to present the video for you.
Hey everyone, we're the Human Development Club and this is our orientation presentation.
So who are we? The Human Development Club is a service-oriented club which aims to build community and educate students on career opportunities in the field of human development as a whole. So we're a relatively new club, only a couple years old, but we're here as a service to you guys for any additional resources you might need.
Yeah, so time to meet the officers. So I'm Abby Vigil. I'm the co-president of the club, and we thought it'd be cute to do like a baby picture, a middle-aged picture, and a picture of us now, just because our major is human development. And I'm a third-year double majoring in human development and Spanish, and my career goal is occupational therapy. And with the major, you can really do whatever you want with it. So that's why we listed our career goals to help give you some ideas. And a fun fact about me is I write for an online magazine on campus.
So I'm Mairead. These are my pictures, me as like baby or toddler to middle, and then me currently. So I'm the other co-president. I'm a fourth-year human development major with a public health minor. My career goal is to go into public health and do research. A fun fact, I do Irish dancing. I've been doing it for the past like 15 or 16 years.
Hi everyone, I'm Brenda. I am a second-year transfer here at Davis. I am the marketing coordinator. I'm in my fourth year at Davis right now, majoring in human development. My career goal is to become a registered nurse, and yeah, I'm a second-year transfer student.
Hi everyone, my name's Kaylani. I'm the outreach coordinator. I'm also going to be a fourth-year human development major with a minor in psychology. My career goal is to become a therapist, and I love snowboarding and horseback riding.
Hi everyone, I'm Shreya. I'm the academic coordinator. I'm a fourth-year human development major with a minor in public health, and I hope to eventually go to law school and become a public health attorney. And a fun fact is I adopted my puppy Luna about 3 months ago.
So what to look forward to with this club? We're hoping to start workshops, career panels where we can discuss different career opportunities with the major of human development, interview workshops, Zoom game nights, and yeah, if you guys have any questions or if you want to recommend anything to us, we're open to taking in advice.
Possible career paths that you can also look forward to is PA or ER medicine, human resources, clinical psychology or therapy, special needs advocate, speech pathology, occupational therapy, education, public health, advising. Honestly, anything that has to do with people.
This year we're trying something new, and we're going to try to implement the test bank. And there's a PDF form right now due to Corona. And so the easiest way to get access to our resources while being in our club, while also making connections, and it's SJA approved. So please feel free to send us all your materials.
Yeah, and if any of the stuff we listed interests you or you just want to check it out to make some new friends, our first general meeting is October 8th at 6:10 p.m. And we listed all our social medias, so follow us at HDE Club Davis. And we also have a Facebook group that's called Human Development Club at UC Davis, if you're interested in learning for more updates. And thank you guys so much for coming out and listening during our orientation. And we hope it's really fun and that you come check us out.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching. I've included in the chat how to reach us via social media or email. Yeah.
All right. And lastly, our last presentation will be from HPA, Health Professions Advising. Brielle, whenever you are ready to go, you can go ahead and give your presentation.
Awesome, thanks. I hope everyone can see me. Let me know if you can't. So I'm just gonna share my screen and we'll get started. So I hope everyone can see this. So my name is Brielle. I'm a staff advisor here at Health Professions Advising. I'm really excited to be here because we have a lot of HDE majors that come and use our services and really contribute nicely to our community. So I've been a staff advisor here for about 4 years now. And you'll meet the rest of our team. They're really great, and I'll kind of introduce them as we go. Let's see. So these are our staff advisors. We have Joanne Snap. She's our director. She started HPA about 7 years ago, and it's been really great ever since. We also have Manisha, our assistant director. Myself, Elio, and Elizabeth serve as staff advisors. And Doug is our test prep specialist. So if you are pre-med, pre-nursing, pre-dental, pre-pharmacy, any of our health professions, typically there's some sort of standardized exam that you're gonna have to take to do well and to get into those schools. So whether that's the MCAT, the DAT, the PCAT, the GRE, right? We offer test prep for all of that, as well as Karen and Mary. They're a little bit newer on our team, but they're awesome as well. In addition to our staff advisors, we have peer advisors who are closer to you all in age, which is really nice because they are either 3rd or 4th years. They're pre-nursing themselves, pre-dental, pre-med themselves, right? So they're kind of on the journey that you're about to be on, and they can kind of give you advice on what prerequisites to take, what are some great experiences to obtain, how to do that. And they also host a lot of our workshops. So I definitely encourage all of you to schedule an appointment with the peer advisor if you get a chance. And again, the staff advisors are here for you all as well. If you want to schedule an appointment, visit hpadvising.ucdavis.edu, and I'll post that again, and I'll post that in the chat, but you'll also see that at the very end of the presentation as well. And as you can see, our peer advisors all advise for different health professions. So some peer advisors just do one health profession, others do multiple. So just keeping that in mind is good. So what are the services that we offer? So we do one-on-one advising appointments. Every appointment is 30 minutes. So it's a good amount of time. And there really is no limit on how many appointments you can schedule with HPA over the course of your undergrad career. As long as you continue to want to see us, we're here, right? Which is really awesome. We also have drop-in advising. And now, since everything is virtual, on Tuesdays from 2 to 3 p.m., you can just come in to our Zoom room and we'll answer any questions that you have pertaining to your intended health profession. And it's pretty popular on Tuesdays, so we're thinking about opening up another session on Thursdays, but for now it's Tuesdays. And those Zoom links you can find on our website, on our events page, which the website is hpa.ucdavis.edu, which again, we'll see a little bit later. We also have workshops pretty much every day of the quarter. There are about 20 different health professions that we advise for. So we try to make sure that there are enough workshops going around to where you're getting to hear useful information for whichever health profession that you are aiming for. And you'll see a calendar a little bit later of what some of those workshop topics are and how frequently we do them. But we definitely make sure to keep our calendar pretty heavy so that there's always something that you can tap into if you need it. We also have summer boot camps. So we have a really popular pre-med boot camp. We have a really popular pre-vet boot camp as well. And this year we are working on trying to do a pre-nursing boot camp and pre-dental. So trying to make sure that we have these month-long events where we're covering every single thing you would need to know before you apply to your intended health profession. 4 weeks long, different events each day. We're going to bring in nurses for you to meet. We're going to bring in PTs, pharmacists, doctors. We're going to bring in nursing students, medical students. So you can kind of see what it's going to be like every step of the way as you progress through your years here. And we also have these full day long symposiums, which are kind of like a summer boot camp, just all condensed into one day, which is really nice because if you couldn't attend the boot camp for whatever reason, you'll have a pre-dental symposium, a pre-med symposium, pre-nursing, pre-PA symposium, so that you can get some exposure into the field in a more concentrated amount of time. And lastly, mock exam days. These are really important. As you can imagine, right, it's pretty stressful taking the MCAT, taking the DAT if you're pre-dental, taking the OAT if you're pre-optometry. So we host mock exam days that simulate the real thing. So you'll get a chance to simulate, actual test taking conditions. Now we know that it's COVID, season at the moment, so it's more challenging to do this virtually as it would be in person like we normally do, but we do have virtual events planned where we can still simulate regular test taking conditions. So we offer mock exams every quarter for all of the different health professions. So you'll always get a chance to do that. And we also have some first year Aggie connections, which would be, which I believe all of you are first year, whether you're a transfer or a freshman. We host a couple of different Aggie connections where you can just be in a group of first years, learning what it means to kind of be aiming towards the health field. And we have one that's Pathways to Medical School, sorry. We have one that's Black students in white coats for African-American students to meet African-American medical students in a nice kind of warm setting. And we have a couple of other ones as well. So I just wanted to point out those ones in particular. So as I mentioned, we advise for a lot of different health professions. And oftentimes when students come into college, the only thing that they really know is pre-med or pre-nursing or pre-dental. Those seem to be the really popular ones. Occasionally we get some students who have a really good grasp of occupational therapy and physical therapy, but more often than not, it's usually the professions that are a little bit more talked about. But you may find that, you know, you thought you were pre-med for a really long time, and then you came to a couple of our workshops and decided that you wanted to study genetic counseling or dietetics, right? So we really want you to explore all the options that are out there. Again, being pre-med and pre-nursing is wonderful, but there are a lot of other health professions out there that may actually suit your needs a little better that you just have never heard of or you're just unaware of. So we do a lot of discussions on, you know, job exploration, and, you know, a lot of students, they want to go into a health field because they want to help people, right? But there are so many ways to help people in the health professions. So if you're interested in any of these, please come and schedule an appointment with us. Or if you just have no idea, you know, what you want to do in the health field, but you know you want to be in the health field, we are here for those conversations. So a couple of factors to consider, personal preferences, right? If you know you want to work in the health field, do you want to work directly with patients, or do you want to be completely in the background, just doing the testing, which may be clinical laboratory scientist, right? So we'll discuss based off of what you want, which careers might kind of suit your needs. We're going to talk about GPA and standardized exams often in our sessions, specifically GPA, because we know that you're going to need a decent GPA if you're going to apply to these health professional programs. But your application is not only based on your GPA, right? It depends on why do you want to go into a health profession. There are so many factors in your application, so I never want any of you to think that GPA is the only thing that matters. There are so many other factors. Prerequisites, I just want to encourage you all. I know that we are virtual, as I've been saying, but please take your prerequisites for a grade. I've had a couple of students wanting to take them pass, no pass because of things that have been going on. But again, I encourage you to take them for a grade because the health professional programs will prefer that. And in terms of experiences and readiness, you know, these are things we'll discuss as you get a little bit closer to getting ready to apply for your program. We'll touch upon that a little bit more. So I just want to say one more time, our website is hpa.ucdavis.edu. And this is what one of our pages looks like. And I took a screenshot of this because I want you all to see that we have all of these upcoming orientations. I will be doing the pre-nursing and pre-PA orientation this Friday at 4 p.m. The Zoom link is actually on our website on this page. It's hpa.ucdavis.edu/program/events. And you will find all of the Zoom links for all of our workshops and orientations on this page. Lots of symposiums coming up, pre-dental week, pre-vet boot camp. These are just a few. We have a ton of events, but I just wanted to screenshot this page. And if you're trying to figure out which health profession you're aiming for, you would hover over this health professions tab, and there will be a drop-down tab of all of them. So you could just spend some time reading what it might take to, you know, eventually get into one of those health professions. Here's an example of our calendar. This is just a snapshot. This is actually only half of our calendar, but you can see we pretty much have something going on every day of the week. Our orientations are on this calendar. We have some class meetings coming up. So for all of the first years, I really encourage you to go to your first year pre-health class meeting. It'll give you all the information you need on how to be a pre-health student as you've just entered UC Davis. If you're a transfer student, the third year pre-health class meeting will be a little bit more tailored towards you. So we hope that's helpful. We've got some pre-health myth busting, preparing for CASPER, which is an exam that will come much later if you're aiming for a few of the health professions. As I mentioned, Doug, our test prep specialist, he does a lot of preparation throughout the quarters. So yeah, these are a lot of different workshops. We have exploring career settings in nursing, preparing for speech language pathology, and the list kind of goes on. lastly, I'm going to try to wrap it up. Our pre-health conference. This is a really, really big event that we have every year. Typically, when we're in person, it brings about 5,000 students onto the UC Davis campus from all over the country. And it's one full day of workshops and panels. You're meeting doctors, you're meeting nurses, pharmacists, nursing students, medical students, pharmacy students, for many different health professions, about 20 of them. And this year it's virtual and it's awesome. It's free. So if you go to prehealthconference.ucdavis.edu, you're going to get some really good exposure into the different facets of what it means to pursue a lot of these different health professional programs. And in addition to that, one of the biggest things about this conference is the fair. So there's this big admissions fair. You'll get a chance to meet medical school admissions representatives and optometry school admissions representatives. So all of the health professions that are going to be at the fair, there will also be people there who sit on the admissions committee. So if you can go and kind of introduce yourself and start to build those connections now, it's going to be much easier for you when you're applying, because you would have already had a nice relationship with these individuals. So just want to encourage that. And lastly, you can do this. It doesn't matter what health profession you're aiming for. It doesn't matter how competitive it is. There's always a way to get into your intended health profession. We may have to tweak some things. We may have to add on some extra experiences. We may have to do some academic enhancement at times, but there's really nothing that can keep you from doing whatever it is that you want to do, right? It's just keeping in mind that everyone's path is different. So your friend may get in much faster than you do, but at the end of the day, you're both going to be nurses, right? Or you will both be doctors. So our job is to just help you do that, whatever that timeline may look like. So to schedule an appointment, it's hpadvising.ucdavis.edu. And that is all I have. I hope I stayed in the right time frame there.
No, that was perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, Kailani, there was a question earlier. I think you sort of answered it by putting all the information, but if you want to say anything about how people can join HDE Club.
Yeah, hi. To join Human Development Club, I can put it in the chat again, but basically we will be having our first meeting on, I believe, October 8th. It's posted on all of our social media sites. That's a great way to meet the officers and like meet other human development majors. I can post it again. But yeah, that's a great way to just get your email on the listserv and just find out more about the club, is going to our first meeting on October 8th, 6:10 to 7 p.m.
Awesome, thank you. And then there was a question from Justice for Brielle asking if students have access to these resources after graduating.
Yes, they do. You have access to HPA as an alumni. We actually help a good amount of alumni because honestly, it's kind of hard to figure out what you want to do with the rest of your life, you know, at such a young age. So, you know, you may spend the first 3 years thinking that you're pre-med and realize you want to be a physician's assistant. And so sometimes we kind of have to recalibrate and help our students who have already graduated kind of get back on track. So absolutely.
Mm-hmm. All right, so 2 quick announcements and then we can continue with questions. First announcement is that we are holding office hours or drop-in office hours on Zoom on Thursdays from 9 to 12 a.m. So keep an eye on your email out. We will send a link out there. And then also the email that I just put in the chat is the general advising email for the major. If you have any quick questions or like a question about your schedule or classes or anything like that, or even how to, you know, ask a professor about research, feel free to email us there and we can help you out and get you acquainted. Are there any more questions that people have? You can ask HPA, you can ask HDE Club, or you can ask any of us on the advising team about other questions that aren't related to any of the presentations. Or if you have any questions from leftover from this morning, you can ask those now.
Hey, Hunter. Can I actually say one thing? Can you hear me okay?
Go ahead. Yeah,
Okay,
we can hear
great.
you.
So in this morning's session, we actually, we had a question in chat that came through, and I want to make sure that answer is really clear. So the question had to do with when classes start and when you can access the course information. So I think there was a little confusion about when instruction actually starts. So at UC Davis, we have what's called the beginning of the quarter, which was yesterday. And then we have the beginning of instruction, or the first day of instruction. That's tomorrow. So you should be able to access your course tomorrow. But if not, if you're having trouble, then you can email your instructor.
And one more thing to add on, occasionally the professors think that they've published the Canvas course and they actually haven't. So sometimes that email is needed because they think everyone has access to it, and then they're confused as to why no one's actually going on it. So, you know, if it's the time of class and they're still not publishing anything or sending any emails out, then definitely let them know. But if you have a Tuesday, Thursday class and you don't have anything by tomorrow, wait until your class time on Thursday to email your professor. All right, I think, well, if no one has any more questions, I think you're free to go. If the professor's still TBD, you kind of just have to wait. There's nothing really that we can say. The professor will email you shortly or announce themselves on Canvas. Yeah, it's TBD, so we don't know for sure.
But if the course is starting, I would say this week, then, and it's still not published, I would even recommend you calling the department who's offering the course. If it's human development, contact one of us. But if it's like psych, if it's a psych course or an anthro course or something like that, reach out to that department directly and ask. Maybe they just haven't published it yet.
All right, and there's also a question about if there's anything to look out for the practicum or any tips. I mean, Rachel did talk about this earlier, but I think the biggest thing is that you need to be in junior standing. You'll usually do it your last year or maybe your junior year if you're a freshman. So for practicum, you want to make sure you know which practicum you want to do, since there's 4 different ones, and then take the appropriate prereqs for whichever one you want to do. Yeah, does that answer your question? Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think, you know, if there's no more questions, you're free to go. Have a good rest of your day. If you do have more questions, you can stick around. We'll be here for a couple more minutes. You can ask them and hang out. All right, but if you have more questions, definitely come to our drop-in hours on Thursday, 9 to 12. The Zoom link can be found on our website if you look at the advising center hours. Ooh, that's a good question. So restricted electives, I mean, the way I think about it is they're kind of just sort of extra classes that you have that can focus on a certain thing. So for some people, those happen to be education courses, or you can have them be psychology courses, or education, or I said education, or communications, or kind of almost anything, or just more upper div human development classes. There is a list of them that are approved on the website, so you can find them there. Anything on that list is fair game. The only issue is there might just be some prereqs. So for 117, if you take it as a restricted elective, then it will count as a restricted elective. But it also counts as a biological processes course. So the only issue there is you can't have HDE 117 count for both the biological processes and a restricted elective requirement. So you have to kind of pick and choose where it goes. Yeah, so no double dipping basically. Yeah, I think that answers all the questions. And yeah, Paul just put the link to all the restricted electives, so you can take a look at them there, and then you can also kind of plan out which ones you want to take in the future, and then plan accordingly with prereqs.
Yeah, what makes them restricted is that we have designated this list. So there's sort of general electives of classes that you just need to take and to get the number of units that you need to graduate. And then within a major, there's certain electives that are restricted in terms of the major has designated that you don't have to take one of these specific classes, but you have to take a class, classes from this list, that it can't just be anything across the university to count in that restricted electives. And any human development class it will count towards a restricted elective. But like Hunter said, and like you said, no double dipping.
You don't have to specify on Schedule Builder. Basically, you just register for it. And then when you meet with us or you meet with Galena when you're close to graduating, we'll kind of know and see which classes you have that count as restricted electives, and then make sure they are counted there. But you don't have to do anything on your end. Although if you are taking a class specifically for a restricted elective and not as part of the depth subject matter, then you need to be aware of that and just make sure you let us know when you do meet with us, but you don't have to do anything the second you take the class.
I would like to add, when you will be filling out your degree worksheet, there is a comment section at the very end. So you can kind of make a comment of what you are planning to take for your restricted electives. And there is a room, restricted electives, so you can enter those classes and even planned quota when you want to take it.
The degree worksheet that Galena is referring to is on Oasis. So you can access that on there.
Yeah, with all students with whom I met in summer, I introduced them to the degree worksheet. So that's great. And if you have any questions, come to see us on Thursday from 9 till noon. And the link is on our website.
Okay, it looks like